Welcome back, good people, to another episode of Grinding Grace. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles, and it's my co-host,
Michael Hillman, welcome.
Mike. Welcome, man. Welcome. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about some really things that are near and dear to our hearts. And one of the things we're going to talk about is actually, do you want to kick it off, Hillman?
Yeah, the topic that we discuss is preparing for the unknown or just preparing for the unexpected, and so to speak. And one of the things that immediately came to mind was having the proper insurance in place for your business. Now, I understand that everyone's not a business owner, so it may be having the proper insurance for your life, once I started making it in business, my income grew, and now I developed this lifestyle for my family that I took out a really good life insurance policy that can help maintain that lifestyle that I've generated for my family when I'm gone for many years to come. And so it is a major expense, and you do have to be in some form of good health to get that level of insurance. But I mean, well worth it. Now on the business side, what really came to mind was having the professional insurance in place that fits your business needs. Uh, and initially, I didn't have these insurances in place, and I'll tell you the instance that came up that made me feel that I needed it. So I was telling Charles just before we started this video conference is that when I started my business, I thought that if I could just build it with integrity, that I wouldn't have to worry about having any issues with people. If I can create win-win scenarios and never cross anybody or did anybody wrong, that they wouldn't have any reason to sue me. But in America, you can sue anybody anytime for any reason, and I had a frivolous lawsuit come up, and I had to pay to defend myself for something that I had nothing to do with.
Hmm.
Now, uh, so with that in mind, if I had had that insurance in place, it all would have been paid for,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't have came out of my pocket.
Well,
So
what all would that have been? General liability, Arizona emissions, professional liability. What,
well,
what would that?
this would have been the professional liability that covers the business and the officers of the company. And
Mhm.
so that one would have taken care of the whole lawsuit proceedings. And but luckily, they ended up settling, paying me, and we got out of it. But that would have just been a
How did
great
you
thing
net
to avoid.
positive out of that interaction? Or
No, no, there's no way to net positive in a settlement. and it's
well, but did the
and
settlement cover your lawsuit costs?
no, no, because generally in any settlement or any type of mediation, both parties end up leaving unhappy.
Mm.
Uh, for that, so like, hey, yeah, I know that you countersue them and all that kind of stuff, but don't have any expectation of that because that's not how it works.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so
Mm. No,
I
shoot.
I hate the litigious nature of America, but it is what it is. So you just got to prepare yourself for it
Yeah.
and just have the correct insurance.
That
Yeah,
happened to me towards the end of my first tax firm. I I hadn't been running it for probably, well, as a principal person working in the business, probably at 2 years at this point. And one of my team members had worked with a client that I'd never met. I got a letter from an attorney saying, um, "We believe our client has not your firm did not serve him well. Send us your liability or your E&O policy, which is errors and omissions,
yeah,
and so that we can get compensated for it." And that's the first time in like 6 years that I'd ever had that. But to your point, I did send that over, and there was nothing else to do. So I'm like,
Did they actually place a claim against your insurance?
that's a good question. I never looked into it. I just gave it to it. Never heard because I pay my policies like a year in advance, so
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah,
I never talked to them. Actually, I was kind of glad to get something because I've been paying all this money since I started. At
yeah,
least I can use it. So I'm like, and but I did feel weird because I wanted to look into it, but I didn't have the time. So I'm like, just here you go, just talk to the attorney.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, or I didn't at the time. It didn't seem a big enough deal to spend my time researching on it. So
yeah. I guess there's other issues for preparing for the unknown or preparing for the unexpected in business and life in general, but outside of insurance, you know, sometimes there's these costs that pop up in your business. Let's say you're pursuing a project or you have a project that comes up which requires a lot of liquidity so that you can do the initial investment in that. And a lot of issues that small business owners have is that they spend every dime that they get. Now, if they're not spending it, most of the time they mix it with their personal finances, which is the biggest downfall of most small businesses, is that they merge their finances together so they can't separate. And I
hmm
know you as a tax professional, you're like, yeah, I see that a lot. And that's the biggest mess in the world, trying to separate that
hmm
for reporting purposes.
hmm
But yeah, by by maintaining your finances separately and creating a cash reserve for those type of instances, you'll
hmm
be able to keep your business flourishing. And
That's
so
good.
you just have to plan that savings process.
So that's a great point, Hillman. So to that point, how much would you say a person needs to retain in their business for a rainy day?
Now, I know I'm super conservative, uh,
hmm
but I would say 30% of their gross revenue of their annual gross revenue needs to be in cash.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Especially if you have employees. Like you just have to have that bandwidth
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're gonna
That's
you're gonna yeah, correct.
that's also a recommendation I say as well. But I would say withhold that just for taxes because most people, especially the more money you make, it's just anticipating if you withhold 30% of your gross, you'll definitely be able to afford your taxes. So that's what I typically said for taxes too. But that's funny that you also say 30%.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is outside of your cash reserve. I mean, your reserve for taxes. You should be
Mm.
setting that aside in anyway. So this is in addition to that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
so that would be 60 if you do 30 for that and 30 for that. That would be
yeah,
60%, which is
yeah.
steep.
Like which is steep. And running a business, you shouldn't be living on 100% of the cash payout anyway.
Yeah, no, not at
Yeah,
all.
because you can
Not
never plan for growth. Like if you're at 100% of the capacity of your revenue, how can you ever plan for growth? You'll
absolutely.
you'll never be able to afford employees. You'll never be able
Mhm,
to take on projects. You are
mhm.
capped where you're at.
I agree. Now,
Yeah.
let me add a different perspective because I've also heard, gurus like Dave Ramsey, um, also Bill Gates. So Bill Gates keeps a year's worth of expenses in cash at hand, just in case anything happens. So, for example, whatever all of Microsoft's expenses are, he keeps up to a year's worth of that in cash. And in this case, is like, I don't know, like I don't know the exact amount, but I'll presume, 'cause I think I heard it before, and I know it was an outrageous number, but it may be like even a billion or something. And that's just like in a money market account, earning very minimal, but just in case of an emergency. Now that's very conservative. I've also read Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership, which is
Hmm.
entrepreneurship and leadership in running a business and what you should do. And he says, hey, if you have at least 3 to 6 months of business expenses in cash on hand, you'll be also good. So if 60% sounds outrageous, so outrageous you won't even do anything, at least have, I'd say, at least 6 months of business expenses at hand saved because
Well, if you have 6 months, that's 50%.
that's 50%.
Be Yeah, because tax is, expense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and, and projects are expense, but like having
True.
6 months of cash reserves to run the business is 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Totally.
think it equated the same numbers that we're saying if you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different ways. Okay. Solid. Solid. Let me see something real quick. Okay. So in this next 4 minutes, based on the algorithm and based on this being a newer channel, we realize we have to condense our sessions with you for now. So what else from a expecting the unexpected can you share in your experience in business that was totally unexpected you never thought you'd see?
Uh, I would say laying off your top person,
Mhm.
or losing your top person.
Mm.
And so when you rely too much on one person in your business, let's say you have an office manager, or you have a number one technician that leads, if there's anything that takes that person out of place, what is your fallback? And who is your fallback? And
Mm.
so putting processes in place that can protect your business, keep your business moving. If there's ever an X factor that takes that person out of the picture, that is a huge one to
Mm.
have in place. And
So
you actually recommend.
your top people?
I had a top tech leave, and they were the head on several accounts,
Mm.
and we had to step into place for that. And
Yeah.
if you don't have the relationships established on those accounts, it kind of puts you in a bad spot.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, luckily that person didn't go and become competition. They
Hmm.
actually moved to a whole nother state. But if they would have become competition, they could have took that business with them. And then now I got to end up in the court system trying to fight and not compete. No, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
So you got to
So
have
yeah.
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 So
So, and to fight that, just so you know, anytime you're hiring anyone new, you need to make sure that they sign two documents. Number one, a non-disclosure agreement. So that's an NDA. And number two is a non-compete. Without a non-disclosure and a non-compete, nothing is enforceable. So if you give them the skills and you give them your process to win in your company, and they decide to leave and take, your information and your processes to win, well, you can never stop them unless you have both an NDA and a non-compete. If you don't have that, they say, hey, there's nothing that anyone can do for you.
yeah, and you actually recommended a good book to me not too long ago called The E-Myth.
Mm-hmm.
And in the E-Myth, they said, even if your business is small and you don't have the people in place, the design an organizational chart or org chart that has all the positions and people in place, and then go back and develop the processes for each one of those steps in the organizational chart. Well, by doing that, you can actually develop the redundancies in your org chart to protect yourself in these scenarios. So like
Mm.
having a number one and a number two, where so what we did in my business, that we always assign two people to an account. So you always have a number one and a two. No one is working solo on any accounts, so that
Mm.
there's always a fallback guy. So you always
That's
have the redundancy. Yeah.
You know what? You're right. The most important thing that separates you from any other business, because there's always businesses that do what we do, is the relationship, and that makes sense. No one wants a brand new person on their account if something goes wrong, because then they start losing confidence. And guess what? This is a brand new person. What's the difference between me going to a brand new company and them just serving me? So I love
Yeah,
that about the backup person. That's actually brilliant. That's brilliant.
exactly.
So,
Well,
all right.
guys, yeah, we reached the end of the video. We reached our time. So we'll definitely be bringing on more for the next topic. We love that you joined us for this video. Definitely hit the like and subscribe and share it out. Hit the notification bell so that you always get up to date.
Cheers. God
Take
bless.
care.